This session is about the Offline Mapbook Example App, and more specifically, some of the considerations that were made when it came to packaging and consolidating the data for consumption within the app. And I, by the way, am Mike Wilburn. I work on the Runtime SDK team, and I'm also part of the team that Eli and Sandy are on, which develops these example apps. So a little bit about what it is that we're going to talk today. First off, example apps, that general concept. The Offline Mapbook, since it is one of the example apps that we showcase and we have out there. Mobile map packages. This is the data vehicle that we use for consuming data offline on a device. I should say it is one of the vehicles we use. And then some of the authoring considerations for putting data within a mobile map package and authoring that from ArcGIS Pro. We'll then jump into a demo and I'll demonstrate the data that was used and consolidated into a mobile map package. And we'll do that live. And then, given that we have a little bit of time, I'll also show you how you can take a local MMPK and share that or host it on the portal. So who here is familiar with example apps? Just a show of hands. You've heard of them before? Has anyone taken any of the GitHub repositories that we have for some of our example apps and begun working with it? Which ones, just out of curiosity? WPF? Okay, fantastic. That was one built by our colleague Mara. And I saw your hand go up. Was that a indoor routing, Xamarin iOS? JavaScript, okay. So we do have 9 different fully featured example apps. These are all applications that are built either on the Runtime SDKs or the JavaScript API. And they're all featured on our developer site, developers.arcgis.com. They just recently redid that site, but if you were to go to the homepage there's a Get Started button. And if you scroll down, you'll see a little banner about ArcGIS Dev Labs, which is another really great way to get familiar with our SDKs and APIs. And then just below that, there's a section about example apps. The home screen currently looks like this. We've got 9 of these applications built out across Android, iOS, and also using our .NET and JavaScript APIs. And this is something that we're constantly working on. There's a Qt example app in the works, and we're also looking at taking some of the existing example applications and making them available on other platforms as well. And all of these can be found, if you were to navigate to this page and click through this, you can actually get to the GitHub repository so you can see the actual source code, clone that repo, take it locally, and begin working with it. So we are constantly growing this collection of 9 apps. I think within, and don't hold me to this, but I think within the next 2 months, that number is going to grow to 12 or 13. So one of the applications that was discussed in the session just prior to mine by Eli and Sandy, both Sandy and Eli are developing an Android and an iOS, respectively, applications for a mobile data collection app. So the ones that we're going to talk about specifically today are the Offline Mapbook, and that's available across 3 different platforms currently. And then even more specifically, we're going to talk about mobile map packages, because that's how we pump the data into an offline mapbook, and that's how we consume it. All right, so the Offline Mapbook app, I did mention it's available on iOS, Android, and WPF. A couple of screenshots there from both WPF and iOS. This is really intended to be an alternative to paper maps. So instead of having multiple plotted off or printed off paper maps that you can take out into the field with you, this is intended to be an exact alternative to that, where while you have a network connection, you can take offline some grouping of data. You can take that tablet out into the field, conduct your inspection, your review of different amenities or utilities. In this case is the scenario that we went with for the data. And then being able to use that in an offline context, basically. In this case, the mobile map package that we publish, and which I'll be showing you shortly, it contains multiple maps. So you can author multiple individual maps within ArcGIS Pro, and you can package each one of those maps and consolidate them into a single MMPK or mobile map package. So really the mobile map package here is the cornerstone of making the offline map book work. It can be accessed, you can sideload this onto a device, or you can pull it down from a portal. Offline map book, I think it says it in the name, it works in disconnected environments. That's a way in which it's intended to work in, say out in the field. And one of the things that I should mention about mobile map packages in general is that they're designed to be used in a read-only context. So for those of you that are sticking around from the session before, Eli and Sandy spoke a little bit about feature services and having something that's sync enabled, where you can make edits sort of offline and then sync those or push those back up to the server. A mobile map package is read-only. So you're consuming it, and you can, with the runtime, you can make adjustments to that mobile map package, but you can't persist those or resave the mobile map package. So this is only like a one-way read. And this particular mobile map package also supports feature search, because as you'll see, we packaged a locator into it. So for any one of those maps that's pulled up, you can actually search for different utility features, water mains, water lines, etc. Okay, so a little bit about mobile map packages. Has anyone here worked with a mobile map package before, authored one? Okay, couple of you. So it carries an MMPK file extension. This is a proprietary file extension, and it can be pushed or published from ArcGIS Pro. Currently, that's the only authoring mechanism available inside of the ArcGIS platform to create a mobile map package. And the unique thing about a mobile map package is that it not only contains the data, but it contains the representation of the data, so the map itself. So it's not like you're just pushing out the data and then you have to re-symbolize anything when it's offline. That symbology comes along with it. And it does an extremely good job of preserving that symbology. So there's a concept of simple versus advanced symbols, and you can author both inside of ArcGIS Pro. The mobile map package even honors advanced symbology, and I'll get into a little bit more about what I mean by that when we get into the demo. There are two different options for actually consuming a mobile map package. You can create one locally and then sideload it onto a device if you're working on like Android or iOS. And you can consume it locally if you're working with like a desktop developed app. The other option is to host it on a portal, and there are runtime methods for being able to download it from a portal and then use it on a device. One of the specific things about mobile map packages, and there's different versions, but they can be consumed or read in runtime apps 100.2 and later. And there's a number of different features or feature types that can be packaged into a mobile map package. Feature layers, tables, locators, networks, vector tile packages, and then with the release of update 2.1, which was went live maybe 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. You can also now package rasters and tile packages. All right, so let's actually get into a demo. And we'll jump into ArcGIS Pro now. We see two totally different things on our screen, so let's see if we can navigate here. Okay, this isn't gonna work. Let me duplicate my screen real quick. Apologies for this. That didn't seem to have done anything. This is going to be painful if I have to sit and look up that way. Let me give this one more shot. So who here would identify as more of a developer, and who, well, let me pose that question. Who here is a developer and have used our SDKs? Okay, makes sense, it's a developer conference. Who here is more of like a GIS analyst or is really familiar with GIS? Anyone that's in both of those? Yeah, okay, cool. Have many of you worked inside of ArcGIS Pro before? Few, okay, I'm seeing a lot of this. That's how I feel as well. So sorry that you guys are having to go through this right now. All I want to do is honor this. So we all see the same thing right now. Why? You know, you would think some of these things would be incredibly straightforward. If you guys see something that I'm apparently missing, do let me know. What's that? I know. It's my own fault, right? I've chosen my own destiny. So what happens if I just leave that up? Okay, we're just going to do it like this. Okay. So now we're inside ArcGIS Pro, and what I have is a number of different maps that I've pre-authored. And each one of these maps, if you remember on that slide that I showed just a few minutes ago, are reflected in that offline map book. So we've got one, and you know they're titled with different names. And for the most part, they all show the same utilities, and they represent them in different ways. So this 811 map, for example, we're showcasing water system valves, which are turned off by default in the table of contents, water lateral lines, and water mains. And the point of this 811 map is to reflect the symbology in such a way as to distinguish between the different pipe types that are out there, the pipe materials. And one of the other things that you'll notice is I've got this base data. And if we look at the properties of this, you'll see that its source is a vector tile package. So this is data that I've separately authored, used a geoprocessing tool to define sort of like a base map for this area of Naperville, Illinois, and then reconsumed it inside of my map. You're laughing. Are you from Naperville? No. Okay, right on. Reconsumed it into our map to represent it as a single layer. And if you remember as well, mobile map packages support packaging or consolidating vector tile packages. So this makes it really, really simple to reconsume that data within our app, within the mobile map package, and then within the app, I should say. So this map is showing lateral lines, mains, and its pipe type. On this one, we've got lateral lines again, and also those water mains, but in this case it's showing a status as to whether or not it's a proposed, it's an already existing current pipe or it's one that's being proposed, reconsuming that same Naperville base data vector tile package. And then this last map, we've incorporated some water system valves, and each one of these water system valves, if I were to click on them and we go over to the symbology tab, they're taking advantage of advanced symbology. So these are multi-layer, These are multi-layer symbols that help to distinguish at a more acute level the different valve types that exist. And one of the reasons you may want to do that is some utility contexts prefer a particular symbol to go along with these things as opposed to using like a unique value renderer. I see some nodding of the heads in the audience, so cool that it seems as though I got that part right. And you'll notice as well there are also some layers that are turned off by default inside of each one of these maps. This means that they do get packaged into the mobile map package, but insofar as that default visibility when consuming them, they're not going to appear. But the mobile map package, or the offline map book rather, does allow users to go in like a table of contents type interface and turn on and off layers. The one other thing that the offline map book showcases is a locator. And a locator is actually constructed using these address points. So if we were to look at the attribute table, and I'll do you one better, I'll actually turn off some of this auxiliary information. There are points for every single one of these homes or buildings that exist in this area. And these points, there's more than 2,000 of them, have a number of different attributes on them. Who here has built a locator before in ArcGIS Pro? A couple of hands raised. Okay, for those of you that haven't, there's a really useful search tool inside of ArcGIS Pro. It's much better than the one that existed in ArcMap, if any of you remember that one. It's called Create Address Locator. And this allows us to essentially take in an input feature class that has attribution on it and define using the different fields how we want to enable geocoding or locating. It's taking a little bit longer to load than I would have anticipated, but I'll give you a preview if it loads. Okay, here we go. So we've got a number of different options insofar as creating a locator style. So what we'll do is we'll just do, let's go ahead and do single house address. And we can provide these address points as input reference data. And this field map parameter is dynamic, and it'll ask us for different input fields from our attribute table to map to each one of these. Now I'm not going to step through and actually run this geoprocessing tool, but the idea is that one of the data components that we're consuming and utilizing inside of a mobile map package is indeed a locator. So I just want to give a little bit of a preview as to how we actually created it. The other thing, and I'd mentioned this before, but I want to give a preview of it as well, is a vector tile package. So that layer that exists at the bottom of the table of contents for each one of these three maps was created using this geoprocessing tool. So I had some data that I had already put together. I actually clipped it to my own extent for just this area of Naperville, Illinois. I went through, I made some symbology considerations, something that was aesthetically pleasing, intuitive in terms of the colors, and essentially this Naperville base data, single layer, was a one-time map. So I had many different layers inside of my table of contents, and I structured those in such a way, I layered them, I gave them each their own symbology, and then I passed that map in as an input parameter to the create vector tile package geoprocessing tool. Some of these other things, minimum and max cache scale, it allows you to define the extent so that when you're zooming in and out, it defines the scale ranges at which that vector tile package that you end up creating is and is not visible. And then it generates an output file. That output file would pop up in my catalog view, and I can reconsume that as a layer. Okay, but the part that you guys are probably most interested in, at least I hope, is the actual creation of a mobile map package. So we can search this again. So we've got this create mobile map package tool, the output file of which has that MMPK file extension. And I mentioned that because our offline map book, if you remember, has multiple maps, I can specify that. That's one of the parameters here in this mobile map package tool. So I can specify each one of the maps that exist as part of this ArcGIS Pro project. The names are a little bit off based on some renaming that I did just prior to this. But I'm basically provided with the ability to specify each one of the maps that exist inside of my ArcGIS Pro project. The metadata for each one of these maps gets packaged inside of the mobile map package. And you'll see that in the Offline Mapbook example, and at the end of this, I'll go back to the screenshots that we had. And you can see the way in which that metadata gets leveraged and used. Locator file, because a locator that I had previously published became a part of this ArcGIS Pro project, it's now specified and it's recognized. This looks like it's a duplicate. Oh, that's interesting. But anyways, this is something that gets specified as well during the creation phase. Something that's not featured as part of the Offline Mapbook, it is featured in another one of our apps for indoor routing built with Xamarin on iOS. It uses also a network data set. So if you have a network-enabled data set in your table of contents for one of your maps, that means that you can also do network and routing with a mobile map package as well. So that's not a parameter here on the geoprocessing tool. That network data set has to exist in the table of contents. And then, of course, you've got metadata that you can fill out as well. So the output of this would be a .mmpk file. This, I think, would probably take somewhere on the order of 3 to, we'll say, like 7 minutes to actually package up. So in lieu of actually running the tool and having you guys sit and wait through it, what I'll show you instead is what you can do with that MMPK, either consuming it locally, or you can share this or host this on a portal. So there's a couple of options for doing that. And again, we'll go back and we'll look at another geoprocessing tool, and it's just called Share Package. So this enables me to point to a local MMPK. This obviously is not the one that we would have created, but this is a different one. What does this error say? So another essential component, and it's nice that we have pretty good error handling here. So you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, I'm not currently signed into my ArcGIS Online organization or portal. And if I were to sign in, then it would know, this geoprocessing tool becomes aware of to which portal I want to share the package. Obviously, very essentially, I'm not just sharing it locally, I'm sharing it, it's actually connecting up to the web and getting hosted there. Can provide a summary for the entire mobile map package, also some tags so that it's easily searchable, and then you can determine what the sharing permissions are right here. The other mechanism, so that's one of two avenues that you have for publishing and sharing a mobile map package. The other of which is, and why that toggle just did that, I have no idea. Let me re-mirror my displays. Sorry about that. All right, now we're back. Let's try this again. The other of which is going to your online portal. And many of you have probably seen from your content tab, you have the ability to add an item. So from here, I can actually browse to a local item, advanced symbols on my desktop, that MMPK file extension. This also has the ability for you to enter a title for the item if it's different than the one that's associated with the file on disk, and also add tags. And what you'll get in the end is a new map file that gets uploaded. So let's see this. You know what? I'm not connected to the internet right now, but this is the filtering that you could essentially apply on your online portal to just look at all of the mobile map packages that exist. It's recognized as a map file. And I'll show you one example that unfortunately doesn't exist on this page. And I don't have the next web page over cached. And I'm unfortunately, do I see it? Oh, maybe, yeah, I unfortunately don't have it cached, but it's, by applying this filtering, you can view a list of all of the map files or mobile map packages that then exist on your portal. So again, both of those publishing mechanisms allow you to either sideload that mobile map package that you created locally, or you can pull it down through the runtime. There are methods to do that, and then you can consume it in your device. There's maybe one other slide that I can show, but I think what I'd like to do now, since we're 26 minutes past the hour, is open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions about what it is that you just saw? We'll start with that. Does anyone have any questions about example apps in general? Okay, well, cheers, guys. If you do have questions and you can't think of them at the moment, I'm going to be over there at the, it actually doesn't say example apps on it, but it's under the native SDKs and APIs island or kiosk. So if you do have questions, either find myself, Eli, Sandy, or Mara. Those are a few of my colleagues that work on the example apps team here at Esri. So feel free to track us down, and hopefully you got the information that you're looking for out of the session. Thanks everyone for attending. Cheers.